Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco, and Russell Jackman. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. Today is just going to be general sports trivia. We got Russ two weeks in a row with NBA because we knew how much he loved that.
I did pretty well.
Yeah, you did pretty well. I got to say, one of them was all-time centers, and I can't remember.
I answered it before you could even ask the question.
Yeah. Can you believe that? We're ready to go to break, and Vern, Russell just blurts out the answer before we even go to break.
Too easy.
Great.
Too easy.
Didn't even give the audience a chance, you know. So when we come back, there's a few things I have on the list, and I know you guys have too. Djokovic defaults for hitting the line judge. How do you like that one? Get into it.
I didn't think we'd talk about that.
We'll get into the next segment because
that was crazy.
That was crazy. And Lou Brock.
Yeah.
What a guy. Okay.
Not just that, Lou Brock and Tom Seaver in 1 week.
Yes. Yeah. Tom, terrific. And then 25 years ago is when Cal Ripken passed Lou Gehrig. 25 years. I still remember that, him riding on the horse.
Yep.
Around the stadium. That was just awesome. I mean, that almost seemed like, the good old days of baseball, clean living. And, I know before that it was, there was other times, but there was just something really special about that specific night. Let's see here. Also, college towns without football. What are they going to do? The ones who really rely on it. And I know you guys have a few things too. So this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 7.5%. In fact, their new Texas, it's actually a Southwest fund, is actually got a preferred yield of 9%. You got to check them out. That doesn't get any more conservative than they are at www.pacificprivatemoney.com. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman. Okay, guys, first of all, let's start off with Novak Djokovic. He defaults, i.e., gets kicked out, so to speak, for hitting the line judge with a ball. And when you look at it, and I couldn't see the different angles. There was only one angle where he just kind of, like that. It's like he just kind of gently hit it. Didn't it look like that? It wasn't like he was frustrated, but it wasn't like this really angry shot that, someone like an old John McEnroe used to do.
Well, you have to look at what led up to that. He was struggling in this match against a guy that he was expected to handle. The whole tournament was geared for him. There was no Rafael Nadal. There was no one to threaten Djokovic from winning this thing. I mean, it was his, and yet he was frustrated and a little angry at struggling against this guy. And he had smashed a couple of balls on the side before that had happened. And then he lost another point, and then he swatted that ball away. Now the line judge just happened to be there, and it hit her in the throat. Yeah. So and she went down, like a house of cards. And in front of national TV, Edward. I mean, you just can't. I mean, you can't let that go and go, well, my bad. So
when he hit the ball hard before, as you were mentioning, in frustration, because it didn't hit anybody, what is it? No big deal, so to speak. And this one, he just basically kind of tossed it, sort of like how you'd normally. I mean, that's the way it looked to me, is that he just kind of normally, hit the ball like you're saying, like, oh, it's your serve type of thing, and you just kind of toss it over.
Have any of us ever been hit in the throat with a tennis ball at any speed? I've never have. I don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
But it's the act, Edward. It's the act that it happened in the venue that it did for the world to see, and they had to take action. I mean, it was they had. I mean, it was more than a fine or a misconduct point. I mean, they had to do something, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
And
I will go on record saying the only good Djokovic is Mila.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, he's pretty good too. But the
lady Mila from The Fifth Element.
Right. Oh, okay, that one. Okay.
Yeah, that's the only one I'll go
That's
on record saying
that's the one you like. Okay, that's
Yes.
fine. That's fine. That's fine. I can't argue with that. But not only did he get kicked out of the tournament, he lost all of the money that he had gained in the tournament. It came up to about $250,000, and he lost all of the ranking points that he had earned as he had been going round and round. So all of that is gone. So I mean, professionally it hurts. And John McEnroe was quoted as saying, for the rest of his career, he's going to be looked at as the bad guy.
And Edward, just try to find me another example of another fun tennis player that's taken it out physically on a judge ever.
Well, again, this wasn't. I mean, when I looked at it, obviously it was unintentional, and it was just sort of like if you want.
I don't think it was unintentional.
Well, I mean, obviously
he's the best tennis player in the world. You're telling me he doesn't know where he's aiming with his racket and the ball?
Wait, now, did that line judge have a bunch of calls against him?
Well, no. I mean, her job is to stand against the wall and be able to tell you scream whether it's in or out.
Yeah, and were there a lot of controversial calls against him on that?
No, he was just playing poorly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that that's why when Russell said, well, if you look, he was aiming for. He wasn't aiming for, and especially after he hit her. He just kind of like, shocked. Oh my God, what did I just do? I hit her in the throat. And then he goes right over to her,
How many times have you heard in baseball from a pitcher going, well, hey, I didn't try to hit him. It just, it just got away from me.
Yeah. Those circumstances, though, usually there's something leading up to that.
And that happens a lot in baseball, whereas in tennis, this doesn't happen at all.
Well, so how many, okay, as you mentioned before, Vern, he whacked the ball. Prior to that, just in the quote stands being frustrated, or guys who have taken their racket and smashed it. And I know nobody's gotten hurt, but it's been a little unsportsmanlike, let's call it, for that. This lady just happened to get hit in the throat. Now, what if she got hit like in the ankle and it was like no big deal? What do you think then?
We'll never know.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll never know.
He has to be more in control of himself. In this COVID time, there's an argument to be made that maybe they should just find a way to put a sensor inside the tennis ball. And then that way you don't need judges, because the tennis ball, just like, they're talking about, the way they have computerized strikes and balls in baseball and a computerized judge, which they haven't implemented yet. They could look at doing something like that in tennis.
Well, they already have that eye on calls that are on the line where you can look at it and clearly see whether it's in or out. But technology every day, it kind of keeps reinventing itself. But who's to say that would not happen in the future?
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. Before we cut to break, talk a little bit about Lou Brock. What a class act, and just I still remember when Ricky Henderson finally broke his record and he got on third base. He just sort of held it up, and I am now the greatest base stealer at all time. And I'm thinking, Lou Brock never did that when he broke Ty Cobb's record.
Do you know the story, the real story behind that?
No.
The night before, he and Lou Brock got together. They wrote a script of what Ricky was going to say once he broke that record. You didn't know that, ever?
No, I didn't know that.
They wrote a script word for word on what he was going to say, and then Lou Brock, he had some prepared remarks on what Lou Brock was going to say because he was there at the game. But Ricky said, "Hey, I just forgot. I just got caught up in the excitement of the moment." But that speech was in his back pocket.
And what did the speech actually say?
Oh, it was going to be, he was, the concessions about how, Lou Brock was this and Lou Brock was that, and I grew up, idolizing and watching his moves and this kind of stuff. And so, so today was just a proud moment. But then he just came out and just went freestyle. I am the greatest of all time. So that's just Ricky being Ricky.
That's Ricky being Ricky. It's like the Muhammad Ali of baseball.
Yeah. But people forget, Lou Brock, he's still the record holder for the National League for stolen bases.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And he'll keep that probably forever.
Well,
probably
stealing
will.
is such a lost art.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, why is that? I mean, and especially the Cardinals were always known
Because the long ball. Because the long ball, it makes small ball almost worthless. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, why steal a base and possibly get out when you have the next guy who's swinging for the fences, looking for a home run?
Well, I guess it depends on who's on deck, right? I mean, if you're more, of course, if you're the number 6 guy, you're probably not known for your speed. So I get what you're saying. I mean, it makes
And
sense.
stealing can lead to injuries. I mean, stealing is one of the riskier
Yeah.
plays in baseball, you know, and
Yeah, but if you do get a guy who's got better than 50%, and he can get to second base, I mean that opens up a whole new ball game. All right, you guys ready for the first trivia question? This one happens to be
bring it on.
Let's see, it's the first 2 are on football. Okay, here's our first trivia question. Who is the only quarterback to throw a touchdown in 21 consecutive seasons? Okay, 21 consecutive seasons. Who was the only quarterback to throw a touchdown in 21 consecutive seasons? So obviously this guy has had longevity, right? All right, that's our trivia question. See if you know the answer to that. You can email Edward at sportsecon101. And you can also listen to Sports Econ 101 on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Sports Byline USA, CRN, and hundreds of stations across the United States and actually international, because we are on Armed Forces Radio. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time. Edward Brown here, along with Russell Jackman and Vern Glenn. First trivia question, and this one happens to be a football one. Who is the only quarterback to throw a touchdown in 21 consecutive seasons? And I gotta say, I did not think that this guy played that long. I kept thinking, okay, it's got to be like Fran Tarkenton or George Blanda.
That was my guess. Was George Blandis? I'm out.
How about Johnny Unitas?
Yeah, that would have been a good one too. He played a long time. No, Vinny Testaverde.
Wow.
Vinny Testaverde. Wow.
I did not realize he had played.
That is a good one. I mean, that is a really good one. Vinny Testaverde. Yeah. Wow.
I didn't know he played 21 seasons. If you just asked me, did true or false, Vinny Testaverde played 21 seasons, I would have said false.
Yeah. Exactly. It was going to be either him or Mark Rippon. So, no. Okay.
Well, we got football coming up. I mean, Thursday, the league starts back up again. In fact, I drafted my fantasy team last night. And I got to tell you, never have I felt more like I was throwing darts at a dartboard with my eyes closed than I did with this year's draft. No preseason, no college bowl games. Normally, like, those diamonds in the rough that you try to draft for, those low draft choices, but you try to get college or rookie guys to come in. Who knows what anyone's going to be like?
You do it for money?
No, but I've been doing it since 1996.
Well, isn't that about when it started?
Yeah, well, fantasy football was one of the first computerized. This guy that I know made his own website, his own fantasy football website, and his own fantasy football rules.
How has it how has it changed over the last 20-something years?
I've gotten worse.
But I mean, the technology.
Somehow, everybody else seems to get smarter, and I seem to get dumber every year. Look, 2 years ago, I picked Le'Veon Bell with the #1 overall pick. So what the hell do I know about football?
Speaking of Le'Veon Bell, remember the times when Adrian Peterson was just automatic top pick every year, just automatic, and now he's a Detroit Lion after being cut by the Washington football team. And here's something to think about. The guy that's ahead of him on the all-time rushing list is Barry Sanders. Wouldn't that be odd if he passed Barry Sanders in a Detroit Lions uniform?
That would be a lot of yards. Barry didn't have a very good team, and so that's why he was like O.J. Simpson. I mean,
Peterson has never been on a good team either.
Adrian?
Yeah.
Well, the Vikings were pretty good.
I think the Vikings were solid during the peak of his. They were solid. They were contenders.
Yeah. But yeah, doesn't he still have the record for one game, like 230 yards or something?
No,
No.
number's higher than that now.
Yeah.
For one game?
Yes.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't have the single game rushing record.
Okay,
No.
he used to. When he was with the Vikings, he had broken the record.
He may have for a cup of coffee, but I mean, but those kinds of things get broken with frequency.
Yeah, isn't that funny? It's like if you have, I was thinking about like, I mean, I loved OJ, but watching, I thought Barry Sanders actually was a better running back, and it was more exciting to watch, you know, with his moves and the quick back, you know, the side to side. And it's funny because you think about the teams that these guys were on, they just weren't very good, and so they had to kind of do it all themselves. You know?
Okay, I do have an update for you.
Remember the Buffalo Bills made that playoff that first year, and the offensive line, it was called the Electric Company because they blocked for the juice, and that those are, you know, they were bad in the early 70s, but by 1973 the Buffalo Bills were a force when OJ was really in his heyday.
Yeah, that was his heyday, actually. So
Yeah.
I do have a statistical update that Adrian Peterson does have the single game rushing record.
He does.
But it's 296 yards.
Oh, 296.
And it was all the way back in 2007. That's why we don't remember it.
Well, see,
Wow.
I did remember he had the record. I
13 years ago, guys. And he's still in the league. That is pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's
running
35.
back.
He's 35 years old. But get this, Frank Gore is 37 years old as a New York Jet, and isn't that funny? Frank Gore Jr., his son, playing college football while his dad is still in the National Football League. That is crazy, isn't it?
Like
That
a
is pretty
Griffin
amazing.
type of thing. It'd be great if he could play on the same team, but I don't know, a couple of more years.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm trying to think, have there ever been any father-son football at the same time?
Not that I know of.
I'd be really surprised. I mean,
So hard.
Got a kid like 16, 17 years old, you know, and then maybe he's a place kicker or something, you know.
I don't know, man. That's a tough one. But yeah, this NFL season is really gonna be something. I mean, I know the show, you know, airs on Saturday, and so we would have already seen Houston at Kansas City. But a lot of these, I just don't know what to expect with really any of these games. Again,
No preseason.
no preseason, no OTAs, no rookie mini camps, even in practices, no NFL referees in practices for these simulated scrimmages. So it's really going to be tough.
It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be sloppy, and
That's my expectation. Tackling.
And I think there are going to be a lot of injuries too, because think about how many injuries you get in preseason, you know, before anyone even hikes the ball. Now we're expecting guys to play all 4 quarters when they haven't even played a game yet.
Yeah.
And there's no warm-up. So guys are just going to be going out there cold. I think we're going to see – I hope, you know, you've got depth on your fantasy leagues because you're going to probably need them.
You know,
This is going to be strange for me because I have I'll have Cardinals 49ers on Sunday. And so and on that day it's just going to be no crowd. It's going to be piped in noise, piped in music. It's just going to be us in the press box, no other fans. And get this, we can't even you can't go in the locker room. You can't even go into the auditorium where the coach and the quarterback come out for their remarks. It's all Zoom or Ring Central. It's one or the other. That's just kind of the way it's going to be. In fact, I have to go. I know the show would have aired, but Wednesday normally is media day throughout the league, where the press kind of gets with the players. We can't even get with the players. Again, that's all Zoom, and we're only allowed to shoot the first 15 minutes of practice, and then we have to get out of there.
Wow. You know, it's interesting. You know, baseball had a big delay. The NBA had, you know, a stoppage, but football, except for, you know, preseason and stuff, I guess really has been unaffected time-wise, right? Because this is about when the, you know, early September is when.
Well, I think I don't know what Mr. Jackman thinks about this, but I mean, but the powers to be behind the NFL, they were hell bent on, we are going to get this done. This is a $10 billion a year
I think they were
cash cow.
encouraged by seeing the NBA succeed and Major League Baseball after the bumps that it started with. I mean, things have been pretty smooth for MLB. So, you know.
they have. Yeah. He's right. They have done it. And I don't know if you know this, but these players are tested rapidly, and when the season opens, the players are tested the Saturday before the game, and if a janky result comes back, they can be tested again. You have to have a negative test 2 hours before kickoff in order to be able to play.
Well, I wonder, like, doesn't it take a couple of weeks for things to show up? You could be
No, now they have like 15-minute tests.
Yeah, it's boom. It's
plus, they're showing that nobody's got a temperature, that nobody's got a cough, that nobody has any signs during the week. Obviously, if they did, they'd be put under more scrutiny.
I wonder when they're going to, if it's that fast, if you can literally test within 15 minutes. I wonder how long things will last. I mean, maybe we're going to come to the end of this a lot faster than we all were thinking.
You got to have that vaccine, man.
Yeah, we're not going to come into it, but maybe we can find a way at least to control it to a point where, at least for the professionals that are playing sports, they can keep themselves from getting infected. I don't know about the rest of it. When the numbers come back from Labor Day, I don't think it's going to be pretty.
Yeah.
Everyone was at the beach in California the last 2 days because of the 115-degree heat.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I was at the beach yesterday with the wife. We went for a little walk on the beach, and on one end of Stinson Beach, nobody had a mask, and they were all on top of each other. As you went further down the beach, you saw more masks, but in this centralized pocket of area, I get a hunch these people must have come over to Marin and not lived in Marin, but because I could not believe
because they closed some of the parking lots and all that. So.
Yeah,
Right,
they did that.
All right, this is another football question for you. Cut into a break. What is the only NFL team to neither host nor play in a Super Bowl? All right, that's our trivia question. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com. The answer to this question. What is the only NFL team to neither host nor play in a Super Bowl?
Well, could we make an exception for Las Vegas?
Yes, they
obviously haven't hosted the Super Bowl.
All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't not touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, Vern Glenn over there, Russell Jackman over there. Second trivia question. What is the only NFL team to neither host nor play in the Super Bowl?
I'm blanking. I'm slow this morning.
You slow this morning?
I'm thinking Seattle. No, Seattle's been in the Super Bowl.
No, they played him.
Yeah, they were with Sean Anderson.
No,
how about Tampa Bay? No, Tampa Bay's had theirs.
They've also won it too.
Oh, Jacksonville.
No,
Jacksonville hosted a Super Bowl.
Oh, that's right.
This is a tough one.
You guys gonna be embarrassed when I tell you. You ready?
Is it? Wait.
5, 4, 3, 2.
I'm blanking. Go ahead.
The Cleveland Browns.
The Cleveland Browns.
I guess nobody wants to go to a Super Bowl in Cleveland.
I will speak up for Cleveland because I have visited there for several Raiders Browns games. Cleveland is severely underrated. It's a fun town. The downtown area has been refurbished all along the shoreline. Of these trendy bars, these warehouses that have been converted into condos now. I mean, I like the vibe of Cleveland. And they have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, yeah. I mean, I've never been to Cleveland, but I've heard, we've done some real estate stuff, and
it's great.
So yeah, it used to be kind of the joke. Yeah, we'll invest in Cleveland, right? And then I've heard, no, it's no joke anymore. It's
no, it's not. No, it's not. And in the area where the Cleveland baseball stadium, it's right across the street from where the Cleveland Cavaliers play. I mean, it's very, Very convenient, very user friendly.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think of you, Bern, when I think of Baltimore, and I've only
Ah,
been to Baltimore once, and the one time I went, this is many, many, many years ago, there was this just beautiful waterfront, and
hmm
you'll know what I'm
The
talking.
Inner Harbor. Yep.
Yeah, and uh, at the time I was talking to somebody, and I said, I don't get it. This place looks dilapidated, but this is a beautiful area. And they said, oh yeah, no, this is a bad section of town, and but I'm sure now it's been, and I think within 10 years they revamped it, and it's
When I was working there were no Ravens, none of that. But the Colts hadn't been gone too long. But in that Inner Harbor, if you're staring at the Inner Harbor on the left side, that east side of the Inner Harbor, it was just all badlands, and it was just nothing there. And that now is where Oriole Park is, and where the Raven Stadium is now, and it is high-end hotels. It's
that's
all
exactly
it's all been done up.
My only time in Baltimore, I was in Memorial Stadium.
Okay.
Camden Yards was a big hole that they were putting stuff into.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to watch, and this is the tie-in, Cal Ripken hit a home run. So
Oh, great.
part of the 2,137 games in a row that he'd played.
well, in
So
fact
that's a tie-in because we're going to talk about that.
Did I ever tell you my Frank Robinson story?
no, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. When I worked in Baltimore, one of these years, I believe it was 1986, the Orioles started off poorly. They lost their first 22 games. And at the time, Cal Ripken Jr. was the shortstop, Billy Ripken was the second baseman, and Cal Ripken Sr. was the manager.
Yeah.
Well, they made a manager change, and then they brought in Frank Robinson. And so, they had a media availability for Frank, kind of an informal type thing. And so I go up to him, and he's a very intimidating presence. Okay, and it's just liable to go off for any reason. So I go up. I go, Frank, hey, you got a couple of minutes for a quick interview? He goes, yeah, sure. So the camera gets rolling, and I'm nervous. I mean, it's Frank Robinson. I mean, come on, big, tall guy. Yeah, that just like this little shrimp. And so the first thing out of my mouth was, Coach just taking over for Cal Ripken Sr. And he stopped me. He goes, manager. You said coach. No, I'm the manager. I go, oh, yeah. Camera gets rolling again. I called him coach again. Now he's annoyed. He's like, hey, hey, man, hey, I'm the manager. So we get the interview rolling again. Son of a gun, I called him coach again, and in Sam Kinison screaming fashion, let me have manager, damn it! You're gonna have a big league. You better act like it. Just was all over me. Now I'm just so rattled. I could just barely gather myself to actually start this interview and do it again, and it was clean, right? Yeah. So I'm leaving the clubhouse, and I look to the back, and then Frank is surrounded by a couple of guys. Anyway, our eyes meet, and he winks at me like, hey, I got you, kid. And from that point on, I could do no wrong in the eyes of Frank Wright. He just loved me after that.
Nice.
One time he got kicked out of a game, and so we're in his office. Now this is Memorial Stadium, so I mean we're in his office, and he kind of sits at his desk. He's got a cup of coffee on the desk, and he goes like this to motion for us to. All right, he's ready, and so we lean forward. This was like 20 of us in there, just packed in there around him. We lean forward, and as he's giving his remarks as to why he got kicked out of the game, I knocked the cup of coffee into his lap, and he gave me that. He just gave me that John Gruden kind of contorted face look, and I can't repeat what he said for the show, but he asked me to go get a towel out of the bathroom. Those weren't his exact words.
That's great. I wonder, you don't happen to have that interview on tape anywhere, do you?
Oh no, Josh. It would if it existed, it would be on videotape somewhere in the archives of WBAL TV. But I will never ever forget that.
Yeah.
Well, it was great that he was the manager of Baltimore, because that's even though he had a big good stint with Cincinnati when he first came up. Baltimore was really where he shone. I mean, he did get the MVP in both
Yeah,
leagues.
he did. Yeah, I
It's
mean,
never
it
happened
was, yeah.
since then. Yeah. In fact, 25 years ago, last week, Cal Ripken passed Lou Gehrig's consecutive games played. They had I don't know if you remember this, but they had a 22-minute ovation in the middle of the game.
Yeah, I remember, and I remember him going around like high fiving people. Like it was a big deal. It was one of those Ripken save baseball moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because that's right. Because in '94 they had the strike, which really upset a lot of us, and then you had '95 when he broke it. It's interesting too, because I was just thinking about this, where I mean, Cal Ripken's such a nice guy. Nobody cared that he broke Lou Gehrig's record from the standpoint of, hey, how dare you? The
Oh no. He's always been a favorite son of baseball,
yeah.
Always.
But when Roger Maris was going to beat Babe Ruth's home run record, he got death threats.
Oh sure, yeah.
I mean, gee, crazy people out there. Back to football for a minute. College towns without football, they rely on the fans, tourists, commerce, etc. What? Any comments on that? I mean, what are the big college towns that are not going to have football fans this year?
Well, I feel for these college towns that rely on that kind of following from a revenue standpoint, but I really feel bad for the likes of these teams, whether you're in a Big Ten team or whatever. I mean, think of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Football in the fall. I mean, you walk to the stadium in this tiny town, and where Michigan sports is everything, and now it's nothing. You're not going to Michigan Stadium. It's 100,000 people there. But I do feel bad for them. Although I have shown highlights of a few football games in this young season. I had Army against East Tennessee State. And then and then a couple of small schools. I mean, they're playing. They're showing that it can be done, but just too much reliability with the big boys, with the Power Five conferences.
What happened
except for the ACC?
Yeah. What happened in Navy against BYU? They got smoked.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of pro towns that are going to be devastated. I mean, it's not just college towns. There's a lot of places that revolve around the NFL. I mean, I've driven through Jacksonville, and I can tell you how little there is to do in Jacksonville. So, you take away football as an entity for people to, gather around and go to the bars and go to the stadium and all that.
Yeah, and how about the community of Green Bay? I don't know if anybody's ever been to Green Bay, but man, that town, I mean,
that's a good point.
People walk out of their homes and walk over to the stadium. I mean, that's how it is. And so for, no Sunday home games in that stadium it has to be devastating.
So now, like Kansas City, though, they're going to spread people out.
Well, they say they are, but
I think that's such a bad idea. I think that's such a bad idea. I think they're lucky to be able to get through, 8 games at home with their players and nobody getting infected. You add another 15,000 people in there, you're just rolling the dice.
My question is, how do they decide who gets in and who doesn't?
Good question.
Money. It's going to be tickets will probably be 3 times as much as they were prior to that. So
what about season ticket holders? They're all right next to each other.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a lottery or something.
That, or they'll charge 3 times as much per ticket, and then that'll sort people out.
Yeah, but if you have a season ticket, though, how does that work?
Yeah.
Well, they charge you. They'll say COVID inspection fees will cost you 3 times as much, And so
does that mean for this season, if you give up your right, then that's it? You go back you go back into the waiting list. Let's just say you've been a season ticket holder for 20 years.
Yeah. Also, if you don't go, do you get refunded that year's worth of fees? Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess you look to baseball for that right now, and to see how baseball has dealt with season ticket holders.
How have they dealt with season ticket holders?
I think what they've done is they've rolled it over and said, so you get season tickets next year
for the next season, right?
But the difference is that nobody is going to any baseball games. When you open up the stadium so that some people can go, then you really have a can of worms.
Yeah.
You know, if it's nobody, then you say, okay, your season tickets just get transferred to next year. But if you're saying some people can go, then you really, who gets to go there's going to be lots of arguments and lawsuits over it. I'm sure.
Especially for the haves and the have-nots. I mean, you're going to go, hey, Wally Warbucks, you can get in, but hey, Tommy, I know you've been a season ticket holder for 25 years. You can't get in. I mean, that's
Yet I totally see the NFL doing that. If they do allow tickets in, that's kind of the way the NFL has always worked, right? They've always said if you have more money, you get looked at, and if you have less money, good luck. We'll see you next year.
Well, there's only 8 NFL teams reportedly that either have plans to have some fans at the stadium. The rest of them, no fans at all.
Gotcha. All right, guys. The last trivia question here. What are the only 2 states in the U.S. that have yet to send a team to the NCAA? Stay with us.
NCAA Division I basketball tournament?
Yeah.
Or
I think that's what it is.
Okay.
Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with some closing comments. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman and Vern Glenn. Third trivia question. What are the only 2 states in the U.S. that have yet to send a team to the NCAA?
Maine.
Which one?
Maine.
Maine, yes.
And Vermont?
No.
No, the Vermont Catamounts have gone to the NCAA.
Oh, man, you got me there.
Good, though, Maine. Very good.
Wow, I'm surprised. The Maine Black Bears have not sent a team to the NCAA tournament.
I've never seen Maine in anything. How about
Alaska?
Oh, Alaska.
Alaska, yeah.
Very
good, though. You got the Maine one. That was pretty good. All right, guys, here's our thoughts for the day. I got a couple of thoughts for the day and a couple of cute puns and jokes. So I recently added squats to my workout by moving the beer to the bottom shelf of the fridge. Figured that's the easiest way there. And doing
unless you use a straw.
Yeah, that's true. You could do that. And doing nothing is very hard to do because you never know when you're finished. You ever thought about that?
Yeah, you fall asleep. You do know when you're done because you fall asleep.
Okay, all right. You're ruining my joke, but that's okay. All right, so here's today's joke. What is heavier, water or butane? And the answer is water because butane is a lighter fluid.
That's a dad.
That's a dad joke.
That's a straight up dad joke right there.
Okay, here's today's pun. Why can't you date Kate and Edith at the same time?
Because you can't have your cake and eat it too.
There we go.
Look, I'm a dad. You're a dad. We all know these ones. We can draw the dots. We can put the lines between the dots.
Too. Yeah, at the same. Yeah, that's right. I don't know. So it's so funny because some younger kids they won't even have known that phrase. So
expression, yes.
All right, guys. That's it for today. So tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.